Hey everyone, welcome back to Legacy of Years. In our last video, we dug deep into the mystery behind Charles XII's fate during the Great Northern War. Today, we're switching gears and exploring a darker chapter of history, assassination. We'll be counting down 10 shocking assassinations between 1700 and 2000 that didn't just end lives. They reshaped nations and altered the course of history. From bold military leaders to visionary statesmen, we'll see how one act of violence set off a chain reaction of change. And stick around until the end, where I'll give you a sneak peek at our next video. Let's get into it. Nader Shah, often called the Napoleon of Persia, was a military genius who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful rulers of the 18th century. He led numerous campaigns, conquering lands from east to west and defeating formidable foes like the Ottomans and the Mughals. His empire stretched from the Caucasus to India, making Persia a dominant force in 18th century Asia. However, as his power grew, so did his paranoia. Nader Shah began to see threats everywhere, even among his most loyal followers. He executed nobles, generals, and even members of his own family, believing they were conspiring against him. His brutality alienated his closest allies, turning the very people who helped him build his empire into his greatest enemies. By 1747, discontent had reached its peak. A group of his own guards, exhausted by his cruelty, plotted against him. One fateful night in June, they stormed his tent while he was asleep. Armed with swords and daggers, they attacked him, leaving no chance for survival. The once mighty conqueror died at the hands of his own men. His assassination led to the rapid disintegration of the Persian Empire. His generals and regional leaders vied for power, leading to internal conflicts that fractured the empire into smaller warring states. Persia, once a force to be reckoned with, fell into a state of turmoil from which it would never fully recover. Nader Shah's death wasn't just the end of a man, it was the end of an era. Tsar Paul I was a ruler who sought to reshape Russia's place in Europe. He was the son of Catherine the Great, yet his reign was vastly different from hers. Unlike his mother, who expanded Russian influence and built strong European alliances, Paul sought to challenge British dominance and forge an alliance with Napoleon Bonaparte. This put him at odds with the powerful nobility and military leaders of his empire. Paul's rule was marked by erratic policies, harsh military discipline, and deep mistrust of his own court. He implemented sweeping reforms in the army, alienating the nobility and officers who had long enjoyed privileges under Catherine's rule. His paranoia led him to isolate himself in St. Michael's Castle, believing that a conspiracy was forming against him, and he was right. On the night of March 23, 1801, a group of conspirators led by Count Pahlen and General Bennigsen entered his chambers. The official plan was to force him to abdicate, but when Paul resisted, the situation turned violent. He was thrown to the ground and strangled with a scarf. Some reports suggest he was also beaten with a sword hilt. His death was swift, and by morning, his son, Alexander I, was proclaimed the new Tsar of Russia. The effects of his assassination were immediate and far-reaching. Alexander I quickly abandoned his father's policies and distanced Russia from Napoleon. Instead of aligning with Napoleon, Russia joined the anti-French coalition, playing a decisive role in his defeat in 1812 and beyond. Paul's death altered the course of European history, ensuring that Russia would stand against Napoleon rather than alongside him. April 14, 1865. The American Civil War was all but over. The Confederacy had surrendered, and President Abraham Lincoln was preparing to reunify the nation. He planned to reintegrate the South with leniency, hoping for national healing and a smooth reconstruction. But not everyone agreed with his vision. John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer and actor, saw Lincoln as a tyrant who had destroyed the Southern way of life. Enraged by the Confederacy's defeat, Booth planned a coordinated attack on key members of the U.S. government. His ultimate target, the president himself. That evening, as Lincoln enjoyed the play Our American Cousin, Booth slipped into the presidential box at Ford's Theater. He raised his pistol, a .44 caliber Derringer, and fired a single shot to the back of Lincoln's head. The president slumped forward as the audience gasped in horror. Booth leapt onto the stage shouting, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants, before fleeing. Lincoln was taken across the street to the Peterson house, where he lay unconscious for hours. Despite the efforts of doctors, he never regained consciousness. At 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln was pronounced dead. He was the first U.S. president to be assassinated. The impact of his death was profound. His successor, Andrew Johnson, lacked Lincoln's political skill and vision. Instead of a smooth reconstruction, the South faced years of unrest, racial tension, and political strife. The nation Lincoln fought so hard to keep united would struggle with division for generations to come. By the late 19th century, Russia was at a crossroads. Tsar Alexander II, known as the Tsar Liberator, had abolished serfdom and initiated major reforms in law, education, and governance. He sought to modernize Russia and bring it in line with Western European powers, but his cautious pace frustrated radicals who sought immediate change. Among those who opposed Alexander II were members of a revolutionary group called People's Will, who believed that assassinating the Tsar would pave the way for a complete overhaul of Russian society. They had already made multiple attempts on his life, including a failed explosion inside the Winter Palace in 1880. But on March 13, 1881, their efforts finally succeeded. That day, as Alexander traveled through St. Petersburg in his bulletproof carriage, a member of People's Will threw a bomb that exploded beneath the vehicle. Although shaken, the Tsar was unharmed. Instead of leaving immediately, he stepped out of the carriage to check on his injured guards. At that moment, another assassin hurled a second bomb directly at his feet. The explosion tore through his body, leaving him mortally wounded. He was rushed to the Winter Palace, where he died within hours. Alexander II's assassination had dire consequences. His successor, Alexander III, reversed many of his father's reforms, ruling with an iron fist and increasing repression. He expanded the secret police, cracked down on dissent, and reversed many of his father's policies. The dream of a democratic Russia was delayed, fueling resentment that would ultimately lead to the Russian Revolution in 1917. As Japan expanded its influence in East Asia, Ito Hirobumi became the chief architect of Japanese imperialism in Korea. A respected statesman and Japan's first prime minister, Ito was seen as a visionary leader in Tokyo. But in Korea, he was viewed as the face of oppression and colonization. He played a major role in negotiating treaties that stripped Korea of its sovereignty, making its annexation by Japan all but inevitable. By 1909, Korean resistance was growing. Among those who sought to fight Japanese control was In Jung-gyun, a nationalist who saw Ito as a direct threat to Korean independence. On October 26, 1909, Ito arrived at a train station in Harbin, Manchuria, for diplomatic talks. As he stepped onto the platform, and Jung-gun emerged from the crowd, pulled out a pistol, and fired 3 shots. Ito collapsed instantly, mortally wounded. He was declared dead within minutes. His death sent shockwaves through both Japan and Korea, but did it actually change Japan's course? Some might wonder, if he had survived, could Japan have expanded its influence in China? Maybe even gained Beijing without war? The truth is, Japan's imperial ambitions were already in motion, and war with China was probably inevitable. But Ito's death did speed things up. He had been one of the few leaders in Japan who preferred a more gradual approach, especially regarding Korea. After he was gone, Japan fully annexed Korea in 1910, enforcing far harsher policies than Ito had planned. His assassination also weakened the moderates in Japan's government, paving the way for the militarists who later pushed Japan into war with China in the 1930s. If he had lived, Japan might have taken a slower approach, but in the long run, the country's expansionist ambitions likely wouldn't have changed. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary visited Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, which had been annexed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1908. To Serbian nationalists, this was a provocation. They viewed the empire as an occupying force, and Franz Ferdinand, as its heir, was the ultimate symbol of oppression. A secret nationalist group known as the Black Hand plotted to assassinate him. The first attempt on his life that day failed. A bomb thrown at his car missed and injured bystanders instead. Undeterred, Franz Ferdinand insisted on continuing his visit. Later, as his motorcade took a wrong turn near the Latin Bridge, 18-year-old Gavrilo Princip found himself face-to-face with the Archduke. Seizing the opportunity, he pulled out a pistol and fired 2 shots, one hitting Franz Ferdinand in the neck, the other striking his wife, Sophie. Within minutes, they were both dead. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and declared war. Within weeks, the major European powers were pulled into what would become World War I. Over the next 4 years, millions perished in the trenches, and by 1918, the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German empires ceased to exist. A single assassination had altered the course of history. Mahatma Gandhi was the father of India's independence movement, a leader who fought against British rule using non-violent resistance. But after India gained independence in 1947, deep religious divisions between Hindus and Muslims led to the partition of the subcontinent, creating the new state of Pakistan. Gandhi's calls for unity and peace angered Hindu extremists who believed he was too sympathetic to Muslims. On January 30, 1948, as Gandhi walked to a prayer meeting in New Delhi, a Hindu nationalist named Nathuram Godse approached him. Without warning, Godse fired 3 bullets into Gandhi's chest. The leader of nonviolence collapsed, uttering his final words, "Hey Ram." His assassination sent shockwaves through India and the world. While Gandhi had fought for religious harmony, his death deepened Hindu-Muslim tensions. His vision of a unified India without sectarian strife was never fully realized. In the years following his death, Hindu nationalism grew stronger, and religious conflicts continued to shape Indian politics. His death left a leadership void, deepening tensions and shaping India's political landscape for decades. Few assassinations have captured the public's imagination like that of John F. Kennedy. On November 22, 1963, the young and charismatic U.S. president was riding through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, when shots rang out. A bullet struck him in the neck, followed by a fatal shot to the head. Within moments, JFK was slumped over in his limousine, his life cut short at just 46 years old. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the assassination, but mystery and conspiracy theories continue to surround the event. Was it the work of a lone gunman, or was there a larger plot? Despite multiple investigations, the full truth remains elusive. The impact of Kennedy's assassination was immediate and profound. His successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, took office and escalated U.S. involvement in Vietnam, deepening Cold War tensions. At home, Kennedy's death intensified political divisions and fueled conspiracy theories that continue to this day. His vision of civil rights and space exploration endured, but the world was left wondering, what could JFK have achieved had he lived? King Faisal of Saudi Arabia was a transformative leader, modernizing his nation while balancing Islamic traditions. He championed economic reforms, expanded education, and played a critical role in the 1973 oil embargo, using Saudi Arabia's vast oil reserves as a political tool. But his policies angered some, particularly conservative factions opposed to his modernization efforts. On March 25, 1975, during a routine meeting at the Royal Palace, Faisal's own nephew, Prince Faisal bin Musaid, approached him. Without warning, the young prince pulled out a pistol and fired 2 shots, killing the king instantly. The assassination shocked the nation. The motives remain debated. Some believe it was personal revenge. Others argue it was politically motivated. Whatever the reason, Faisal's death had far-reaching consequences. His successor, King Khalid, continued his modernization efforts, but Faisal's death marked a shift in Saudi politics, affecting regional power dynamics for years. Oil politics, regional conflicts, and Saudi Arabia's role on the global stage continued to evolve, shaped in part by Faisal's assassination. Yitzhak Rabin was a warrior-turned-statesman, a military leader who had fought in wars but later pursued peace. As Prime Minister of Israel, he played a key role in negotiating the Oslo Accords, a landmark agreement aimed at resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. His efforts, however, deeply divided Israeli society. While many hailed him as a peacemaker, right-wing extremists saw him as a traitor willing to compromise too much. On November 4, 1995, after addressing a peace rally in Tel Aviv, Rabin walked towards his car when a Jewish extremist, Yigal Amir, stepped forward and fired 3 shots. Rabin was rushed to the hospital, but the wounds were fatal. Israel lost a leader and the peace process lost its most determined advocate. The assassination sent shockwaves throughout the world. The peace process stalled, and tensions between Israelis and Palestinians deepened. Though peace efforts continued, Rabin's assassination dealt a devastating blow to negotiations. His death shifted Israeli politics toward more hardline policies, leading to prolonged conflict and missed opportunities for peace. History shows us that assassinations don't just take lives, they change the world. Each of these 10 assassinations had ripple effects, altering the course of nations and shaping the future in ways both expected and unforeseen. Some sparked wars, others prevented peace, and all of them left lasting legacies. That wraps up our look at these 10 powerful assassinations and their far-reaching consequences. Each moment reminds us how a single act can change the course of history, leaving ripples that affect generations. What do you think? How different would our world be if these leaders had lived on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through history, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with fellow history buffs. Thanks for watching Legacy of Years. We'll see you in the next chapter of history.